For this second example, we'll move the loop points along and listen to this section. What would be interesting would be to have an ascending line building up to the bridge section and starting 2 bars before that section, in bars 26 and 27. It will be nice to have something happening, and to think up or try some ideas, I'll simply select the piano as my instrument for now. So playing along to this section, I get the feeling that an idea like this would be pretty good. The best thing to do would be to extend the loop range back 1 bar, so I have a kind of count-in. So the first bar is my count-in, and then I have the 2 bars building up to the next section. Okay, so having come up with an idea, I'll play it in starting with the trumpet. Although the trumpet is perhaps sometimes a little harsh on its own, it's a good instrument to start with, as it's very defined and clear, and creates an excellent base for my timing. So now, let's record the trumpet. So that's my idea, and it's a fairly typical brass idea that works perfectly for this kind of section. It's quite possible that you could find a loop with this style of ascending line, as it is very commonplace. But obviously, it's also not that complicated to play your own line in, so that's what we're doing. Having listened back, I think the first 3 or 4 notes come a touch too early. So I'll simply go to the Edit page and move them back a bit. One thing worth noting is that the 16th note patterns need playing quite forcefully to create the attack that is required. It makes them nice and punchy. The next instrument I'll play is the alto sax. The next instrument is the tenor sax, and once again this will sound 1 octave below the alto saxophone. Around now, after the 3 instruments have been played in, we can start hearing how the brass section is coming to life, and we still have to add the trombone. However, before adding the trombone, we can quickly look at the mixer. As you can see, the levels are quite varied between the instruments. The trumpet is a fair bit louder than the 2 saxophones, and the trombone is somewhere between the saxophones and the trumpet. One tip would be that you could create a group from these instruments, and that would allow you to insert, for example, a compressor, or something else that is quite popular these days, is to add a tape saturation plugin over a subgroup. If used carefully, this can give you the sound of, for example, an analog tape recorder, which once again adds to the realism and authenticity of the sound. To be honest, you can also drive a tape simulation plugin quite hard as well, to really create an old-school vibe. Now we have to add the trombone. Having listened back to that take, there are clearly some out-of-time bits at the beginning, so I'll go in and edit them. In this case, if I quantized them, the timing was quite far out in the 2nd note, and it actually moves it closer to the previous 16th note. So I'll move it manually to the later and correct 16th note. Once again, this is played unisono. except for the section towards the end where we have a harmony. If we look at the trombone in the editor, we can see just how much the breath controller is doing to the sound. For example, if we listen to the D-sharp 3 note, we can see that the note falls away due to our breath controller. And this is exactly the effect we want. So there we have another example of our brass section.